very interesting trends in the electric vehicle market. So we're decided to be joined by an expert, Kristin Eberhard. She's the Director of Climate Policy at the Niskanen Center. Kristin, thank you very much for joining the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we noticed this thread that you put out there. Let's put this up there on the screen. And it's about a report from a new report which shows that EV popularity is exploding and how in just the last 3 years, the number of EVs on the world's roads has tripled. Now, I think the major question from Krystal and I is that what does this mean both in terms of consumer demand, because obviously most of these vehicles are for upper middle class individuals. Are they becoming more accessible to the broader consumer market? And then what are the infrastructure holes that we have that are making it so that more people cannot have and adopt an EV?
Yeah, I think an interesting thing here is the difference between the United States and China. So China actually has done a lot more to make EVs accessible more broadly. And so you're seeing even bigger growth and bigger uptake there. The United States, on the other hand, we have some subsidies which have helped EVs, but we're mostly getting them into the hands of kind of upper middle class urban dwellers. And really, we need to be getting them into the hands of the people who need them the most, the people who are driving the most, who are most dependent on gas, and would get the most benefit. And so some tweaks to our policy could really accelerate this transition.
Interesting.
And then, as you brought up, I was just going to say, charging is, of course, the other, big bugaboo. People, want to make sure that they feel very confident that they're going to be able to get where they want to go and not run out of gas or run out of juice. And we do have the bipartisan infrastructure bill put $7.5 billion into charging stations. They gave it to states, and now there is some question about how quickly and effectively states are going to roll out that money and get that infrastructure built.
So most climate news is very dismal. This actually seems really hopeful, what you're pointing to here. In just 3 years, number of EVs on the world's roads tripled. How much does that matter in terms of climate?
So EVs are one of our, I think there's two things, right? So there's climate, and then there's our dependence on fossil fuels, which are very interrelated. And in terms of our dependence on fossil fuels, EVs are one of the biggest tools in our toolbox for reducing our dependence on this very volatile global commodity. And the faster that we can get not just our cars, but also trucks and buses turned electric, the faster that we can reduce our dependence on everything that we're seeing happening right now in Russia and Europe. In terms of climate change, transportation in the United States is the biggest sector, our biggest source of emissions. So it's a huge deal in the United States to be able to get off that. Globally, it's a little less, but still a very important chunk of the climate pie.
So my question, Kristin, is I've heard this critique before. It's just simply not possible to get most people on the road driving electric vehicles. We don't have the components. We don't have the supply chain. What does the state of the current supply chain mean for the ability, let's say, we have sky high demand right now for EVs, but what does that say for the ability of US automakers, both from a Tesla to a Ford, Chrysler, GM, and others, to be able to put EVs on the road to meet the demand that people have?
Yeah, there's definitely the supply chain for batteries right now is very China dependent. About 70% of batteries are coming out of China.
Wow.
So that is definitely a piece that is, I think, on the radar for automakers, battery manufacturers, and US lawmakers to figure out how we can transfer some of that capacity and supply chain security to the United States to make sure that we're not locking ourselves into dependence on China, to make sure that we can ramp this up.
Another thing you point to here is that it's not just personal vehicles that China is outperforming us in terms of the transition to EVs, but they're also dominating getting electric buses and trucks on the road. What else are they doing that we should look to emulate?
Yeah, so China has been putting a big push into trucks and buses. And in the United States, we do have, so again, the bipartisan infrastructure bill did put a big piece of money into electric buses. And again, that money is going out to states, and states are implementing it in different ways to get more, particularly school buses, electrified, which has a big impact both on just increasing the productive capacity and supply chain in the United States, and then also on improving air pollution in our communities where children, are getting on these buses that, my son gets on a bus every day that smells like diesel, and so the more that we can make those electric, the better our health of our children and our communities. And right now, China's out ahead of us. The bipartisan infrastructure bill helps with that, and there's still more to be done to really spur that transition.
Yeah, it really just sounds to me like they've just made a much bigger bet and infrastructure investment in it than we have. So, I mean, if you were to point to maybe a single area where EV, not even EV, but electric adoption would be able to increase that hasn't been done already by the government, what do you think it would be?
So just taking the existing subsidies we have and shifting them. So as I mentioned, right now, those subsidies are mostly going to the people who already are interested in buying EVs, which in the United States is about a third of buyers say that they want their next car to be an EV, as opposed to in China, it's more like 2/3.
Wow.
And so part of that is because we're only giving those subsidies to the people who kind of already want it. And then those people all talk to each other and tell each other how great their EV is. And then all of, my friends and neighbors want to get one. Mm-hmm. But if we shifted those subsidies to, instead of being based on a vehicle sale, to be based on the gasoline use displaced, then we would get greater penetration into other neighborhoods, other types of Americans. And then they would start telling their friends how great EVs are. And we would have increased demand.
Very interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. And like I said, so much of climate news is really just depressing. It's nice to see one trend going in the right direction and some positive forward-thinking ideas about how we can continue to nudge it forward. So thank you so much for joining us. Really grateful for your insight.
Thanks, Kristin. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. 1 year anniversary was yesterday. Feels like, it truly does feel like both, I think we said this, both a lifetime ago and also like it was, last week.
Thinking back to like being at the Hill, that just feels like,
yeah,
that really feels like another life, doesn't it?
A much worse life.
Yeah.
No disrespect.
We had plenty of fun there.
No disrespect. We had a lot of fun, but this is a hell of a lot more
for
fun.
what we were able to build there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing like being able to, deliver exactly the product as we want it to you guys in the way that we want it. So thank you guys for being part of year one, especially to our premium subscribers, especially to the lifetime members who helped us get off the ground, but to everybody who has, watched and enjoyed our content throughout the year. We really can't tell you how just tremendously grateful we are to have the opportunity to do this, to have the opportunity to continue thinking forward about how we can improve the product and deliver for you all an even more complete version of the Breaking Points community. Yeah. You guys are amazing.
And I want to give a special shout out to Scarlett Murray. I discovered yesterday she was our very first premium subscriber.
Oh, for
Scarlett
real?
Somehow was able to sign up an hour before anybody else. I literally don't know how that happened. Shout out to you, Scarlett. I'm like, I don't know how you did that.
Well, because
to be honest
we had
with you.
the
exist redirect link. Yeah,
we had a link existing, but we hadn't published it, so she somehow was.
I don't know how she got there, but she made it happen. She did it literally an hour before any other person. So shout out to you, Scarlett. Shout out, like we said, to the lifetime members who helped get this set off the ground. If you guys haven't checked it out, we sent all our premium subs a long video about what we have done and invested in, what we want to continue to invest in. So if you guys can help us out, we really appreciate it. Big news coming on the live tour, the actual official first dates and more. We're going to be announcing, and tickets are going to be going on sale very quickly, first to our premium subscribers, and then of course to everybody else, if there are even any left. So if you want to check that out or possibly be part of it, make sure you go ahead and sign up today, and we'll see you all next week. We've got great partner content for you all over the weekend.
Yep. Enjoy the weekend, y'all. See you next week. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.